What's going on, guys? Unknown Player here, and today we've got some more Destiny 2 stuff to talk about. There's some news from Bungie about future events and updates. They even talked a bit about the endgame criticism, which has been a big topic recently. We'll be talking about yet another Overwatch Easter egg in Iron Banner, as well as some other things happening recently as well. So let's begin with some info that just came from Bungie. They gave us an update on how the Prestige raid is coming along, because of course there was an exploit discovered, which they're trying to fix. It was supposed to go live with Iron Banner, but of course it was delayed until next Wednesday, so Bungie updated us with how it's going. So they said that essentially the bug is quite a complicated one, and the fix they've come up with needs more time to test to make sure it doesn't break other parts of the raid, because that could make things worse, of course. So they won't be deploying this fix until they have more time to test it and make sure it doesn't break the raid entirely. Now, they won't also be delaying the raid anymore. It's still going live next Wednesday. It's still on track, but instead they're going to be pushing an update with a safer fix for the exploit, which I guess may be less effective, but has way less chance of breaking the raid. So this safer fix is going to be the next update, most likely on Tuesday the 17th, the day before the raid. They also said that just in case the exploit still does work, they can monitor everyone doing it to see who beat it legit and who essentially cheated. So they didn't directly say if they're going to ban people for cheating, but they will be checking to see anyone going for Worlds First to make sure they weren't cheating, which is of course good. So they'll be making sure whoever actually does get Worlds First is legit, which is easy to do because you can just tell how many kills they got and you'll know if they spawn the ads. So it is pretty complicated, but a definite fix is going to be patched later when they can 100% verify it works. But for now, they're going to be trying a safer fix with less risk, and that's going to be in a patch update just before the raid comes out, and they'll be able to tell regardless if anyone cheated. So it sounds pretty good to me. Now, as well as that, they also announced the very next event happening for Destiny, or activity thing going on, the next new thing happening, and this, of course, is the challenge mode of the raid. So next week, they're going to be announcing it and saying the date of it, which is probably going to be in a couple weeks from now, maybe early November, but expect the challenge mode to be going live in a couple weeks from now. If you don't know what a challenge mode is, essentially it's both the normal and prestige version of the raid, but you do certain things in certain orders and kind of special tricks, and you get extra loot and also emblems you can see on screen right now. Now, the big question is if the challenge mode of the raid is also going to boost the level cap, because again, every single raid in history, hard mode has always raised it, and challenge mode has always guaranteed you max light level loot, whatever the highest light level in the game is. But right now, we still can't get to 350 just yet, so we aren't sure just yet what event it is that's going to raise this light level to 350. Obviously, we know that's the highest light level inside the entire game. I kind of doubt they're going to wait until the Curse of Osiris expansion to raise the light level to 350, so we're going to have to wait until next week to find out if the level cap is actually going to raise, because the big question is what kind of loot is going to drop in this challenge mode, because right now, the prestige mode is purely cosmetic. There is nothing that actually increases your level at all, so it's basically a cosmetic raid. So if that's the case, then what incentives are there for anyone to do the challenge mode of a prestige raid, which is going to be probably the most difficult activity in the game, and I can guarantee no one is going to do the challenge mode of a raid just for these emblems right here. They're definitely not worth it, so there's got to be some kind of extra loot, and of course next week they'll be telling us what this incentive to do the challenge mode is. So as well as that, Bungie also talked about some of the feedback and general community discussions that's been going down and how they're listening and paying attention to it. They said some of the stuff is a lot more broad, like make Crucible more fun, and more specific ones like add a method to mass delete shaders. So I'm assuming by them acknowledging that they're hopefully working on something like that to be able to delete all your shaders at once. And they also addressed probably one of the biggest complaints and kind of criticisms of Destiny 2, which has been the endgame. That's probably been the #1 thing a lot of people would say is the weakest part of this game, is the endgame content and the grind, essentially. They said we're reading as much chat as we can. There are millions of you after all. One thing we've noticed is a lot of discussions about the endgame and how it can be improved. Right now, these discussions are also happening in our studio. We're listening but need more time to digest and draw up the best plans for the future. We have more to say on this very soon, so stay tuned. We'll keep the conversation rolling. So pretty good news in general. Obviously, it's very vague and doesn't mean anything for the immediate future, but it's basically them saying we get it, the end game isn't that great, it can be improved, and we're discussing how we can improve it in the future. So we don't know if it could be 1 month from now or maybe until the Osiris expansion, but either way, they're saying they got the message loud and clear, the end game needs improvement. Now, as well as that, they also announced some more general news about the game. So Distant Shore, the remake of Shores of Time, that is going to stay in Destiny 2, even though Iron Banner disappears at the end of the week. Distant Shore is going to stay and be added into the rotations of both quick play and competitive, so Distant Shore is here to stay. They also announced that the launch of the PC version of Destiny 2 is going to work a little bit different to how the console launch did, and it's actually going to be one set time, so it's not going to be a rolling launch for several servers. It's going to go live at the exact same time all around the world, and it's the usual event time, so 10 AM Pacific or 6 PM in the UK, and you can see the map on screen with all the different time zones. So next up, let's talk about some Iron Banner stuff and yet another Easter egg that was actually found. I've covered so many in the last 2 videos, but yet another one was actually put in the game for Iron Banner. This one is pretty similar to the very first Easter egg of Lord Saladin making a Reaper reference from Overwatch, so take a listen to this clip.
Opponent claims Zone B. That's 2. 3 opponents down. Like a Reaper, you have terrifying potential.
So there you go, good old Lord Saladin says like a Reaper, which of course is a reference to the character Reaper in Overwatch that Saladin's voice actor, Keith Ferguson, also voices for. And he even put on a bit of a Reaper voice too. They're really going hard with these Overwatch Easter eggs. It's cool to see this sort of stuff thrown in there. But I mentioned this in yesterday's video, but I hadn't seen proof of it happening, so I didn't know if it was true, but it turns out is a real thing. A few of you sent me videos of this happening on Twitter, which I appreciate, but this particular video clip was sent to me by a YouTube channel called Kaboo Boost 45, so I appreciate that. And if you want to watch the full video, of course, I'll link it down below in the description. So talking some more about Iron Banner, I played quite a lot of it today. I had a pretty weird experience, to be honest. It was definitely very strange. Of course, feel free to let me know down below in the comments how you're getting on and what you think of it, and also if you're a solo or if you play with a team. But the weird thing is that when I experienced it as a solo player, it was pretty awful, to be honest. It was very, very difficult. As you can see on screen, this is a screenshot of an entire session I played on one character of Iron Banner. No editing, this is straight up 5 matches, 5 losses. Lost every single game when I was playing solo, and I came top of my team pretty much, tried the best I could, obviously trying to concentrate, but you just cannot compete when you're against other people who are in full teams, they're communicating, so you just really don't have much of a chance. And then straight after that, I teamed up with a bunch of friends and we had a full squad of 4 of us and we won 15 games in a row. 0 losses, and it's just crazy how much of a difference there is in matchmaking if you're a solo player or whether you're with a team. And something I've seen a lot of people suggest is that solo players should be matched against other solo players and obviously teams against teams. But I think it really just highlights how Iron Banner is just not a place for solo players, and you are going to have a very, very rough time if you're not with teammates or if you're not communicating with them. It's just nearly impossible to be able to stick together, be as a team. And again, I just found it so crazy how I play solo by myself and it was pretty awful. Lost every single game, all 5. And the second I grabbed some friends, we win 15 games in a row in one continuous session. And it's not like anyone was getting carried. It was a pretty even scoreboard for most of it. But it was just such a night and day difference between playing with a team and playing solo. So I really want to see some kind of improvement where solo players aren't just completely left in the dust. Because right now it is really brutal. And of course, I want you guys to comment down below. If you're a solo player, let me know what you think of it. Or if you're playing a team, let me know how you got on. But I do just generally feel bad for anyone who doesn't have a friends list or people they can join. Because for the most part, Iron Banner is very inaccessible. And it's just not a very friendly place because you're just going to get stomped by teams who are very coordinated. And it isn't just Iron Banner. For the most part, Crucible is pretty much the same thing, just very tailored towards teams. And there is one simple, very massive fix to this, and that would be, of course, Rumble or a free-for-all playlist. I really want to see some kind of Rumble added in. And again, I've said it so many times, but I don't see why there isn't one. The map seemed perfectly sized for Rumble, so hopefully in an update soon they're going to add it. Bungie hasn't said directly if they will or won't add Rumble, but they have got it on the list of things they know the community wants. So in terms of the loot drops I got from those Iron Banner games, I got some pretty good stuff, to be honest. Definitely a lot luckier than my first loot drop, which was basically garbage weapons that I'm never going to use. But this time I got pretty much some of the best weapons. I got the pulse rifle, the Time at Worn Spire, and I've heard some very good things about this. It seems to be almost like a clever dragon, so I'm looking forward to trying this thing out. It looks and feels the same as the Nightshade, another very good pulse rifle that of course fires a lot faster. There's also the hand cannon, which I've heard mixed things about. Some people saying it's great, some people not so good, but it does reload incredibly fast. So I'm looking forward to honestly trying this thing out in PvE more than Crucible. It's the highest impact archetype, so it hits like a truck and reloads quickly. So this thing looks pretty good. There's also another grenade launcher, which I'm never going to use ever. I got a second pair of gauntlets and also 2 of the cloaks for the first time, which is cool. So I'm only missing now the boots and the helmet, I think. So making some decent progress on this stuff. Now, in terms of the weapons that you saw in some of the gameplay clips, this is my new favorite loadout, the Antiope or Antiope-D. Absolutely love this submachine gun. I've never used them at all before in Crucible, but this thing is a monster. And when you pair it with the scout rifle, this thing is almost like a legendary Midar. The only thing it doesn't have is the radar, but it does have high cal and also rampage, which boosts the damage. This thing is really good at long range, mixed with the SMG for close range. And for those of you going to ask about the shader, is New Monarchy Diamonds. So I want to finish the video with one of my favorite clips that I got today, which absolutely made me laugh. It is such a kind of random but also really good clip. and this is on Shores of Time, or the new Distant Shore map, and this is me placing a smoke grenade on top of this pillar as a Titan rushes over, and then he catches it, it detonates, and it stops him jumping, and he falls off the map. So this thing made me laugh. Definitely the highlight of my entire play session, but of course, if you don't know, when you catch the smoke grenade, it's going to stop you jumping. So if you're in midair, it's going to take that jump away from you, and you're obviously going to plummet down to your death. So I didn't really intend for this to happen. I know it would happen if he did jump over, but I didn't think he would. So there you go, definitely my favorite clip of the day. So there you go, a big rundown of a bunch of stuff happening in the future and announcements from Bungie, another Easter egg, my experiences and loot from Iron Banner, and a really cool clip at the end. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video as always. If you did enjoy it and want to help the channel grow, then you can leave a like rating down below. That would be much appreciated. If you want to watch another video I made talking about a bunch more Easter eggs and Lord Shaxx hinting at a DLC, then click the image on screen right now, and I'll see you guys next one.